Hello, my name is Frederick Raynal. I'm the creator and programmer of the first Alone in the Dark. And I'm here, thank you. And I'm here to tell you the story of the making of this game. And I'm very, very happy to be here, especially this year, 2012, because it's the 20th anniversary of this game. Exactly 20 years ago, I was working 15 hours a day to try to make this exist. So before going deep inside the conception of the game, just want to tell you a few things about me before this game, because it's important, because it helps to understand from where came the inspiration. So, early 80s, my father's got a computer shop who was named Videomatic. It was in France, I'm French. And I was helping customers with computer, repairing their computers. And here I made a game in 88, which was Popcorn. It was a breakout freeware, nothing very important, but Infogrames saw this game and called me to work at Infogrames. But something which is the most important thing is that my father's shop was also a VHS movie tape rental shop. So I was working days and nights in this shop. So at night, when I was bored programming, I watched movies. I maybe watched all the movies I can find in the shop. And I was very, very fond of all the horror movies. I was 20 plus years old at this time. And my heroes were George Romero, Dario Argento. I loved all those movies. I love zombies. And something which is very interesting is the structure of that kind of movies, all the 70s horror movies, is that usually you are one guy or a group of guys entering a special environment and just tries to survive. Look at the headline of Amityville. The scenario of Alone in the Dark is written on it. For God's sake, just get out. And that was the main inspiration for that. But I didn't know that at this time. I also, I was 20 years old, playing a lot of role-playing game also with my friend at this time. And especially Dungeons and Dragons. I played a little bit Call of Cthulhu because actually I didn't like it. The character sheet was so huge and it was so difficult. Okay, but I'll be back on that later. So I joined Infogrames in 99. I was doing some programming stuff, low-level function, graphical function, and everything. And one day, I was involved in the conversion of a game which is alpha waves. It was named Continuum here. We were in 90. The name of the game was The Cube at this time. Christophe de Dinechin is the creator of this game. And I did the conversion, the port, from the Atari ST to PC. It was all ASM code. So I worked for 6 months on this game. And so I spent 6 months inside a rotating cube because it was a game. You can see it at the GDC play part. There is a demonstration of this game. It's a bouncing shape, and it's the first 3D platform game. And so I spent 6 months with this rotating cube around me, and it obsessed me. I was always thinking, there is something to do with 3D. And I didn't know yet quite exactly, but my imagination was very, very motivated. Say, okay, we can modelize something more better than just small shapes like this. And I was thinking about 3D characters. And I said, okay, there is something to do with 3D characters. And one day, it came quite quickly. Everything went very smoothly and logically. And one day, I have this idea. It was my first vision of the game. I wanted to have articulated and skinned 3D characters with first 3D zombies. I was really saying, okay, now it's possible. I can do a game with 3D zombies. My favorite game at this time were adventure and action games, so it had to be an adventure game with some action. I'll go deeper in that later. And about how to play, because we were in the early 90s, we couldn't manage many characters, dialogues, and everything. Say, okay, it's a game, you are just alone, because it was just convenient. Say, no human interactions, no dialogue, things like that. And when can this game exist? The year 1920 is very convenient too, because there is electricity, so you can have light, but there is no electronic, there is no complicated stuff. So it was perfect for the date, the place. The idea came from horror movies, an old mansion, an old haunted manor for the place. And the scenario, just get out alive. You enter the situation, you enter the house, and you just have to exit the house alive. Something I knew since the beginning is that I needed to have some text to read, because to make something very scary, and especially back at this time, with just a few polygons, that's something that is not very frightening. So I knew that I needed a text to put a situation, to have a very heavy background story for the game. And so something I understood very quickly too is that with the polygons, the number of polygons, the amount of polygon I can put in the engine at this time was not very, very big. So I thought that I need some 3D backgrounds, but which were not made with polygons. So I had the idea I can take pictures of a real mansion, an old one, and then make my 3D fits on those pictures to have those 3D characters inside the game. Actually, if you know the game, it's not like this at the end, and you'll see why. Okay, so I had at Infogrames a good friend who was named Didier Chanfray, and I explained him my vision of the game. 3D zombies in a house, and you need to get out and fight monsters in this adventure game. And Didier did this drawing. And this is really the first thing that was done on Alone in the Dark. And this was very good inspiration. We kept this drawing above my desk for the whole development. Each time somebody was asking, you are working on what? Say, at this, look. And actually, Infogrames didn't really believe in it at this time. So for the first time of my life, because I did games for the previous 10 years before, it was the first time where the amount of work seems very huge, because usually you think about the game with a few sprites and everything. You do a quick prototype in 2 hours to see how the game works. But I needed things that just didn't exist at this time. 3D characters, articulation, it means tools. So I started my first tool. I needed a 3D modeler, but we were early 90s. I never saw a professional modeler. Modelers that existed at this time were quite simple with those 3 views to edit a few things. So I needed mine. Say, okay, let's do a modeler. And as I told you, I was so obsessed by this 3D rotating cube that I decided to make my own editor. And in this editor, you edit your mesh, but in just one 3D view. Everything is based on this rotated cube, and you can move a grid inside of it, placing your points, drawing lines, and polygon. The tool was in EGA mode, for those who know the PC at this time. It was a high-resolution mode, 640 by 350. Pixels were not square. And these tools allows to create the model of the game, the object, the characters, and everything. Put not texture because it was flat polygons, but I did some kind of materials on them to be able to have a little bit of variety for them. And with this tool, you can also edit real-time animation. Again, I'll be back on this later. So I needed also another tool. A tool to be able to edit the backgrounds, actually, to put collisions and to make fit my 3D function on the picture. Because, as I told you, I was sure that I cannot use polygons for the background because it was not, I couldn't put enough polygons to have a very nice scenery. So I did this tool where you were able to put some wireframe cubes in it, trying to make them to make the collision fits on the imported pictures. Something that you need also to remember is that in '91, digital camera didn't exist. So we had to take picture with a real camera, then have them scanned. We had one scanner in Infogrames, so and then try to make my routines fit. But my 3D projection system was very, very too simple, and with the camera and the wide angle needed to have some nice, large enough view, it was really not possible with the what I think. So what I thought at this time, say, okay, I need hand-drawn backgrounds. And so the tool ScenEdit, which was meant for put the collision on real pictures, actually was used to create the rooms of the room. And you see how it works just after. At this time at Infogrames 2, they had a trainee programmer. They didn't know what to do with him. Say, okay, do you need somebody? Say, okay, great. Give me Frank, and Frank de Girolami worked on this tool, and it will be the project manager for the second one. But okay, we are previous that. So, as you see here on the screen, that's the kind of view that ScenEdit generated. It was a wireframes cube. That describing the collisions and all the walls and floor of the room. And it was not an official project at this time at Infogrames, so I was just working on my idea. They didn't believe in it. And so I had an idea. I created with this tool the first room, actually not the first room of the game, a room for testing. And I put those 4 camera views on a floppy disk, and I gave it to all the artists, to the artists in Infogrames, telling them, okay, I want to work with somebody who is really motivated. So it's not official, it's not from the direction, just from myself. If after the work you want to draw something with that, just do it. I explained them that, okay, obviously they didn't see those pictures at this time. I explained them, okay, it's like a kid coloring sheet. Use your Deluxe Paint. We used Deluxe Paint at this time. Photoshop didn't exist too. And I asked them to make things because I was also very worried about the integration. When you have 3D characters, low res, flat polygons, I wanted to have them very well integrated. So I asked them, okay, you put colors on the wall, try to have the maximum of flat surfaces, but with a lot of details to make the picture looks like a real picture. So I explained that, and actually, just 2 of them gave me an answer. Well, you need to know that Infogrames was 35 people at this time, so it was not a huge company. A guy gave me some background which looked like Prince of Persia. It didn't fit the ambience I wanted. And Yael Barrows we did those 4 pictures, the 4 first pictures of the prototype of the game. She came from a real art school. Same thing at this time, school for video games or for digital graphics didn't exist. But in this school, they had an Amiga. And when she saw video games of this time with tiles and sprites, 8 colors and everything, she was also convinced that there is something to do better with video games. So for her, it was the perfect fit. So she worked. Actually, she went back to his school because I also had a PC at this time too. And something that you need to know that she became my wife and the mother of my children. Okay, so now I have 3D backgrounds with collisions. I didn't find back the wireframe of those pictures, sadly. Okay, so I started to make my first hero because I needed a hero to put in those background pictures. It was called Main Zero. It was my crash test dummy. It was very, very simple because I needed something very, very quickly to just test, can it work? And that was, so what you are seeing here is the first hero of Alone in the Dark, made with my tools. This is the animation part of the tool. Actually, this animation was never put in the game because you cannot run like this in a house. But it allows to edit them. I'll be back on how it works after because that's very important for the game. So now I have 3D backgrounds. I have a 3D hero. So let's make the first prototype of Alone in the Dark. We were in September 91, and actually it works. I have a 3D character that can direct control with the keyboard. The interface of the PC game at this time were just keyboard-driven. Some joystick existed, but they were more intended for flight simulators or things like that. So it was all controlled by the keyboard. ScenEdit also allowed to edit all the mask that is put. There is no Z buffer. This is a 2D picture. So you had a zone on the floors that tells which picture you need to put in front of the characters. And the camera switching used this done too. But it worked. I have my character walking in this room. Actually, we learned a lot from this demo because you can see the camera are not very efficient. This one is fine, but some of them you have too much walls or too much ceiling. And I understood at this time that it was more important to put the camera in the game, showing the biggest part of the ground to give to the player a good vision of where he can go and what it can do in this. Oh, yes, did you see that window and the bird coming in? I don't know from where this idea came from. Maybe it was Hitchcock movie, or I don't know, but I wanted to have monster coming in from windows. So if in another game you see a dog coming in through the window, remember these 12 polygon birds wrecking the first 3D window in the game. We also learned from this demo to avoid to have a short reverse shot camera because it was very disturbing for the player. So it was working. And then I showed that to Infogram, say, okay, look, that's what I'm thinking about for this game. And they say, oh, okay, great, the concept was approved. So I had my home team for the first time. Obviously, Didier Chanfray, who worked on the black and white picture you saw, Yael Barroz, and Franck de Girolami, who became integrated inside the team. I asked Infogrames to have plain old mention from those old years, and they provided me Frank Manzetti, I worked a few days with him, making the plane of the mansion, the full plane. So Didier is involved in the team now. So now I have a 2D artist that became a 3D artist for the first time. So he did the second hero of the game. It's called Main 2 because the first one was Main 0 because it was the number came from a programmer, and the Main 2 is the second one because it was numbered by an artist. As you can see here, I don't remember the exact amount of polygon. I think it's 140 polygons. That was so huge. I wasn't sure that it was not too much. As you can see here, the way of animated characters, it was not a hierarchy of objects. It was a hierarchy of points. Actually, one mesh was just a cloud of points, and each point was attached to a group, and the rotation of each group was another point from that cloud. This is the first polygon hero with the flat shaded polygon and some kind of materials on the chest of the hero to have some variety for that. Let's load an animation. I chosen this animation because it's very special souvenir to me. We were working with Didier, and okay, I want that the character is able to walk, but I want also him to be able to run. And Didier say, how do you run in a house? And I show him running between the desks in the company, and he did that just to have fun of me. Actually, he said, but you are running like this. I say, okay, thank you very much. But actually, in the final game, the animation is not very different than this one. He tried to make it less funny, but so that's my way of running, they said. Okay, just to show you how the tool works. Each time you click on a part of the body, it selected the group, and then you can modify the 3 angles, because all the mathematic functions were trigonometry, not matrix at this time. It was just a dream matrix. So you can, like an articulated puppet, put all the position of the body. I wanted to have this, obviously, to have animation, but something also that you need to know that in early 90s, PCs were slow, but were evolving very, very quickly. So you have a lot of and big differences in speed between computers. So I decided to have this system to be able to adapt that for the animation system to adapt itself to the speed of the computer. So if you have a very slow computer, you just have the basic frames. And here I just modified it a little bit to show you that you can put the time you want between the frames. So it was very, very convenient, because if you have a very, very fast PC, you have very, very smooth and nice animations. This animation is just 4 frames. That was also so convenient for the memory. Didier did also the first monster of the game. It was a kind of zombie chicken. Don't know exactly what it is. Also, the sphere were very convenient to give some volume to the object without using too much polygon, because I was very hard on him, saying, no, it's too much polygon. It was always too much polygon. And look at this attack animation for this monster. It's just 3 frames. So it means in memory, I don't remember exactly, 40 bytes. That was so cool. We were very, very happy with what we saw at this time. That was so new, so impressive. That was very, very cool. Okay, so now I have a real hero, real monsters, some plane for the mansion. So I also did it. I'll be quick on that. I needed a scripting language, because something I understood very, very soon is that as I was the main programmer and alone, I need to separate work between people who produce the content of the game and people who are programming the engine itself. So I did this kind of object-interpreted language. But it helps me also to understand something. With 3Desk, ScenEdit, and my scripting language, I understood that if you do for a game, and it's still true nowadays, dedicated tools, it's very, very efficient because it helps, because it keeps the direction, because every artist working on the game, you give them the maximum freedom, but inside the constraint you want and inside the direction you want. So if you have a lot of dedicated tools to a game, it helps to keep the vision and the efficiency too, because the tool provides exactly the data you need for the game. So we were working, and we are now in December 91, and this is the first room, you know, in the game, the first room you see in the final game. But here you can, for the first time, we had fights. Yes, he runs well. Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, so you can push object, monster can see you, detect you, attacks you. The camera switching system was working quite nicely. The monster can attack you. You will see here the first manual fight system. Yes, there is, can give punch. And also this animation, which was removed, this one, because but not very, very elegant, the headbutt. But it works. You can fight monsters, and you can have this camera switching. The game was really here. There is no OSD on the tool. Yeah, OSD here, it's for the debug mode, just to show you some collision and a little bit of the underground of the game. And I didn't want any OSD. That was the inspiration from the movie. And I say, I don't want you just play the game. You're inside the house. I want that you are completely immersed. Your life points and inventory system was another screen. But when you play, you just have the 3D vision of the game. So here you can see the orange lines are the collision artists have to draw the backgrounds. And you can see those small box for the hit detection when you fight. There was the collision boxes were attached to some group. So it allows to have very different kind of attacks for the game. Okay, then Call of Cthulhu, because Alone in the Dark is very often a lot of people say that the inspiration is Call of Cthulhu. Actually, the inspiration, as I told you, was more the movie. But the story of Call of Cthulhu is something interesting, because I asked to Infogrames, okay, I need a writer, because, okay, do you see here it's an action game, but I don't want to do an action game. Alone in the Dark is not an action game, it's an adventure game with a few action in it. So I needed those texts. So I need a very good writer. And then at this time, Infogrames was talking with Continuum, which owned the Call of Cthulhu license. And they asked me, is Call of Cthulhu something that interesting you for the game, Lovecraft? I say, okay, Lovecraft, just perfect. I knew the books of him. But please, not Call of Cthulhu, because as I told you, the character sheets were so awful. So they gave me Hubert Chardot. He never worked on a game before. He was a good writer. He knew very well Lovecraft, and he's very talented. So we start to work with the Hubert. The license was refused by Chaosium. They say, no, it's not Call of Cthulhu. I said, I know it's not Call of Cthulhu. I don't want to have any character sheet in it. And so they say, it's too far from the RPG. I say, yes, I know, but this is an adventure game. It's not an RPG game. So the team now, we have a writer, we have 2D artist, we have So while we were maybe 6 or 7 people at this time, that was the full team. And so we were ready to be able to put the content of the game. So we did a very famous, and everybody in the team remember that so well. This 3-day meeting. The whole team was in the same room. We ate a lot of pizza. And I did it as a game master. Say, okay, because I knew I had the plan of the mansion. I knew what kind of action, what kind of puzzle things I wanted in the game. So I played it as a game master with them. Say, okay, we are in the attic. I want to start the game in the attic because you need to go out of the game. So I asked Hubert, find me something to explain why you start in the attic. And it was the same way of working each time. Okay, now we have this monster. Okay, you cannot kill him with your hands or with a gun. You need to find this statuette or this special knife. Right in this book you find here, you need to put this clue of the way of passing this monster or this part of the game. So everybody of the team took note about what they have to do, all the list of all animation, all monsters, all books that need to be written, and everything. So after those 3 days, we had the whole red thread of the game, from the start to the end of the game. Everybody knew what they have to do for the few months that still needed to make the game advance. This was very, very memorable. Hubert Chardot said a few times later that he learned his job in 3 days because he saw everything, because he didn't know how to work the game, and say, okay, so how number of animation you need, how many characters, how many plays, how many, everything. 3 days for the whole game. The production team grown up a bit too, because the total amount of background in the game of 3D camera views was 170 views. It was too much for just one artist. So Jean-Marc Torella and Frederick Bourgin joined the team. Jean-Marc did almost all the caves under the ground. And Philippe Vacher also came us for the music. Something you need to know also, at the beginning of the 90s, PCs were not very good for doing sounds. You have the buzzer, it was not very efficient. You have some ad-lib FM cards with 3 channels FM chip. A game, for instance, Alpha Waves, all the sound effects are done with these FM chips. But early 90s, the Sound Blaster just arrived. That was so amazing, especially for a game like this, because we can do samples, real samples for the first time on PC. So for all the squeaks of the steps, when you open door, all the scream of the monster and everything, it helped so much to have a realistic ambience and game at this time. That was very, very something very important for the game. Okay, let me just do a quick step to the end of the game, because there is something quite funny that happened. I don't know if you noticed in all the videos and pictures you saw for now, is that all the characters you saw just have a sphere for the head. Yes, we were in September 92, master state, but we still have no head for the hero. Because since the beginning, I told Didier, when he created the characters and monster races, I will have a voxel head system. You see, it will be just marvelous with a lot of details for the head. We can have animation on heads and everything, but I never had the time to do it. So he said, oh, we need something. Didier said, okay, let me take care of that. And he did 3D polygons for the head. That's why in the game, the head is very, very static. There is not a lot of animation because all the animation were done. So it was just quickly try to reparse all the animation to add little movement for the head. But we were very quite late. And where this is very funny This is that those in April 92, Infogram asked me, we need visuals for the communication. I say, oh, you need visuals, but I have no head. Okay, never mind. Didier and Yael drawn some with Photoshop, Deluxe Paint, and drawn head on the screenshot of the game. And that's very funny because if you still look on the first box of the game, the pictures at the end of the box are those pictures with a fake head on it. And even in the game, in the main menu, if you don't touch a key, you go to a slideshow, and the picture in the slideshow are those pictures too. So they are not the same in the game. We didn't have time or forget to modify those pictures. Okay, so let's back to the game itself because why this game was the first name, it was later actually, first survival horror. Because I had a lot of ideas about how to scare the player. I told you the main important stuff is the books, because imagination is stronger than polygons. So if you have this very, very heavy ambience, very dark story, so it helps to put this heavy ambience in the game. But I realized also something else. In an adventure game, you walk 80% of the time. And I say, if you want to put big pressure on the player, just scare him on what he does all the time, just walking. That's why in the first corridor, the soul cracked under your feet and you just die like this. Usually in the game, you never do inviolable trap like this, but it was to put the pressure. It works so well. Testers, when they're playing, each time they saw a darker pixel somewhere, say, be careful, be careful. It just happened once in the game, but now you are afraid of walking. It was the same thing for opening door. Open a door, you have a monster just behind. Okay, so now you'll be afraid for opening every doors. Same thing, even the books. You needed to read the books in the game. Some books, you just open them, you die. Say, okay, you use a weapon in the game, use it. It breaks. Say, wow, and the limited inventory. Because that's something also that it already existed in game. But I like this fear because it's each time you go to a trip, you pack your stuff. Say, I don't need to forget that and to forget that. And that's something that you can do with limited inventory because sometimes you have to put down some objects. So maybe I need them later. Okay, but you can go back and pick them up again. And limited inventory means also limited ammunition. I know a lot of people say that the game was frightening because of the amount of ammunition. But actually, it's what's not important because this is an adventure game. This is not a shooter or a slasher. So you didn't need actually a lot of ammunition. I know it's very... it makes people more confident to have a big gun and everything. But no, if you read all the book, you always have clues to kill a monster with just one action. It can be a dedicated object or a way of avoiding him. So actually, you can finish the game with almost all the ammunition you can find in the game. But because I really wanted to force the player to find other solutions than just brutal force. It's not a shooter. It's an adventure game. And as I said, all clues are in the book. For instance, this room, I read some walkthroughs of the game, say shoot quickly the 6 or 5 zombies. No, just put a pot of soup on the table and they will go to eat and you don't have to fight them. The fight with this knight is difficult because you need this sword. Okay, read the book and you will learn the story why this knight can be easily killed with the statuette. This one is special in the game, the combat with the pirate, because my animation system, interpolates in between frames, but it also interprets between animations. So I wanted this kind of special gameplay. The pirate actually got a parry animation for each animation you have, the right attack, the left attack, and but you can, with the keyboard, change whenever you want the animation, and the interpolation system creates other animation. But the pirate doesn't know that, and he just have a full parry animation for the left and a full parry animation for the right. So the trick was you just start to attack from the right, and you feint it by going to the left, and the pirate was continuing to protect itself on the wrong side, and it was in this way very easy to defeat. Some monsters were quickly killed with the gun, but as I said, all clues were in books, so you can avoid or find easy solution for a lot of monsters. Let's just have a look at some underground fights. Yeah, this is the door. Each time you die in the game, killed by a monster, you can see this animation. A zombie is dragging you to the sorcerer cave. You can see quite often this animation while playing. And it's something funny too, you will see just after why. Okay, so the final game, October 1912. Everybody knows this picture because this is the first picture you see in the game when you run the game. And I like it very much because in all the things I wanted in this game, there is also this detail, but I like it. You see the lamp at the bottom of the screen, the petrol lamp. And actually, this object is the one that is used at the end to kill the sorcerer. I just like this idea that the first object is the one you need to finish the game. And I have a confession, actually, to do. In October 92, I hated this game. 2 years after, at the beginning, we were so excited. Everything was so new, so impressive. But 2 years after seeing those 3D characters inside the game, nothing was new, actually. But what I saw is the trajectory, for instance, when you throw an object, it's just a line. It's not a well curve, because I quickly implemented it at the beginning just to go on the game. I never had time to modify it. And there is, in the game, I can tell all of them, all the details in the game. I say, wow, this is so bad done. And especially one thing I hated is that when the characters open a door, you have the camera on the side, and you cannot see the corridor or the room just in front of him. But the character itself just see what he's looking at. So you are afraid to go forward, but the characters, he sees if there is something or not. Okay, but let me just read something from Lovecraft. Lovecraft said, "The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is the fear of the unknown." Say, okay, so it's fine. Huh? You can't see what's happening, so let's be afraid with that. But I really, really thought that people will laugh at me. Say, okay, your game is so stupid. That was really something. It was the end of the game. Everybody was really, really tired and everything, and I was really afraid. What happened to the game obviously made me change my mind, but that was really, really true this time. So we are almost done. Let me just show you not the introduction of the game, because I think most of you have seen it, but let me show you the final sequence of the game and the end of the game. Oh, sound, please. Good resolution, sorry. recognize this door? You saw it so many times in the game, and that's the way to exit the house at the end. Another thing I found funny at this time to use the same path you saw when you died each time in the game, but now it's to reach the end of the game. Actually, you are not obliged to directly go to the exit, because the house now is empty. All the monsters died with the sorcerer, and so you can just go back in the house to visit all the rooms with no monster in it. But generally, the testers just wanted to get out. Said, okay. And this is the real hand. I didn't do that animation. Obviously, we had to do that. All the movies from the 70s did something like this. Okay, this is the end of the making of this game. Actually, the team was not involved in the sequel of the game. We, at this time, did another company which was named Adeline Software, where we did another game called Little Big Adventure. It was named Relentless here. Okay, thank you, everybody. For okay, for the question, I want to ask to a good friend of mine, Vincent, to join me just to be sure I understand well your question. Okay, if you have any question, please ask.
Hey, two questions. First off, did you use any of those tools you designed on additional games? And second off, which was your favorite platform? Which platform actually got it, like, was the best port or the best version, the PC version?
Sorry. Okay, so for the tools, actually, no, they belonged to Infogrames. They used them for Alone in the Dark 2 and Alone in the Dark 3, but I didn't use them. But, you know, when we started our new game, the 386 existed at this time, so I redid everything in 32 bits mode. That was so more speed and so more efficient, so I'd never used them again. Actually, I used them last month for this presentation, but not for another game. And my best platform is the... I'm obliged to say the PC, because when I discovered the PC in 87, 88, I really felt in love with this machine, and so I really prefer the PC. But the ports are usually very, very well done, and it's very, very nice to see. But I prefer the PC version.
Thank you. How much did playthrough iteration go into your puzzle challenges? Because I remember playing the game and, oh, the monster jumps out of the window, but hey, I can move that closet in front of the window and block it. But I only know that after it jumps out of the window and kills me the first time. How much did your challenge design revolve around repeated playthrough?
Sorry.
Est-ce que tu as itéré beaucoup et que tu as modifié des trucs, ou est-ce que tu as fait un design directement avec sa machine et ton écrou?
Yeah, the way of working at this time was not the same than nowadays. Actually, the tests were done very, very late in the process. Testers were first us, and but I had the same idea during the whole development. So you need to find a way to be able to avoid, because if you're not good at fights, you need to find a way. So it was done since the first room to be able to push the wardrobe in front of the window or the chest on the hatch to avoid the monsters. Actually, I'm lying a little bit because some monsters don't have that in the game and you need to fight them because we didn't find a solution. But we didn't do a lot of iteration on it. It was, if you look at the dates, the first prototype were at the end of 91. So we did the game in, let's say, the real content of the game in less than 8 months. So we worked a lot and we didn't ask a lot of questions. In fact, say, okay, it works. Yeah, it works. Okay, let's play it. Thanks.
My question would be, did you have a long phase where you just did a concept, like a pen and paper, and designed the world, or made a conscious decision where the story takes place in the world?
Sorry?
S'il y a une grande phase où vous avez juste fait du design et fait tout le concept à la base.
I told you that the 3 days meeting.
3 days.
This is really, this is 3 days. We did the whole game. After, obviously, when Franck de Girolami, for instance, was involved in ScenEdit, but also in the scripting of the game. So each time we test, but we just test ourselves. Say, okay, it works. It was like the idea from those 3 days, and say, okay, let's
so
have it like this.
So the whole floor plan of the house was everything in 3 days.
Yes, we modified a lot. Actually, the mansion plan was modified during the season because sometimes for instance, I wanted to start at the attic and the exit were on the first floor, but I wanted to have some surprise, like the cave is under the house. So actually, when you reach the first ground, it's not the end of the game. You have all the part under the house, and then you need to come back to. But it was done in those 3 days, and sometimes but this door is not convenient. I prefer that we go here before, so let's move a little bit the walls in it. But nothing was really modified after those 3 days, except when really something was not working, but not the plane. The big stuff didn't change after that. We were lucky, I think, very lucky.
Okay, 2 questions. The first one is, what do you think of all the survival horrors that came out after Alone in the Dark, like, Resident Evil and Silent Hill? And the second one is, I don't know who owns the rights for Alone in the Dark now, but has someone ever considered making an HD remake of this game for some platform?
I would love an HD remake one day, and I hope it will happen one day. But I think in 4 grains, all the right. I'm not sure about that. I don't know. And about the games, the evolution of the game, as I told you, I wanted an adventure game. Okay, with action, there are a lot of action actually in the game, but that was the spirit of the game, was really adventure. So actually I wasn't very happy with what they did on the sequels of the game. Games in the same ambient spirit that I prefer, it's more Silent Hill, or recently Alan Wake, which is closer to this kind of the spirit I wanted for the game at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Just one question for me. Something I never really understood is why there is at the beginning of the game you have the choice to choose between a male character, female character, with different storyline. And did you really expect in '92 female playing this kind of game?
Okay, I forgot to say it actually. Merci, Alexis. Alexis was one of the testers of the first Alone in the Dark.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Alexis. I forgot to say it. I was very naive at this time, and I believe that if I put a female character in the game, women would have wanted to play the game. I was very naive about that. And also something I forgot to say when you saw the animation with the girl, I thought that I can put the same animation for the male character than for the female character, but it's not true. All the animation were redone. And something I also wanted at the beginning is that the story for the things you have to do, not just the story, things you have to do for the female character, to have something different for her. But same thing, we didn't have time to do that. So the story is sadly exactly the same for both characters.
Hi. I must tell you first that I really admire this game. This really scared me when I was very young. And I didn't hear anything about the sound, and I remember being really afraid of the steps. So when did you put the sound in the game? At what moment did it come in the project? Was it really late in the project, or you always planned that sound?
Si tu as le son, vous l'avez rajouté tous les squeaks, tu sais, quand tu marches par terre, si vous l'avez rajouté très tôt dans ton truc, ou c'est très très tard que ça arrivait?
Actually, it was quite soon in the game because all those the information for what sound, because every steps is sound is different depending of the ground you are working on. So it was integrated quite soon in ScenEdit tool because when you put those wireframes collision in the game, you said, okay, the sound if you work on this collision is this one. So that was something integrated quite soon in the game. Not really at the beginning because the sound artist wasn't here at the real beginning, but it was very, very soon because since this 3 days meeting, all the sounds were listed during those 3 days too. So after that, he had the list of everything to put in the game. So it was done, let's say in the first quarter of the development.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you very much for coming.